All right, we're joined by Wayne State's 18th year head baseball coach Ryan Kelley previewing the 2026 season. Coach, last year 27 and 28, 12 and 12 in the GLIAC, but you made it to the final day of the GLIAC tournament before falling to Davenport. We'll start with kind of a roster breakdown. Returning pitchers. You had 20 players throw a pitch last year. Of course, some of those were by necessity with injury. Caleb Sanders, Bennett Hitzelberger, but of the 20 players that threw a pitch last year, all but 3 of them are back. So you return a lot of arms, most notably maybe Gabe Nazelli at the top of your rotation, and then Ethan Getting at the back end of your bullpen. But just kind of talk about pitchers coming back for this year's roster.
Absolutely. So, as of now, as we've navigated through the fall and winter, I would say the pitching mound has the most significant depth on this team. Something that is probably required based on our prior experiences. But as you mentioned, we do have some returners. We've got some newcomers that we'll talk about as well. Gabe Nazelli kind of anchored in probably most innings as a returner and the starting experience. He's done well. He actually has been voted on by his peers to serve as a co-captain this year with Tony Hatzigiorgio. So looking at Nazelli, Gavin Nash, who had some successful time last year part-time, is back, and he's been looking really well. He's a guy that might be able to anchor in as a starting pitcher for this team. Maceo Miller's seen time as a starter. We'll see how that develops. We've got some other guys like Nick Baker, who's been doing really well in the offseason for us. That's maybe on the returning side. You mentioned Ethan Getting. He's had some time out of the bullpen. And a slew of others. T.J. McAllister, I'm looking at some of our names on the returning pitching side. Coy Plummer, he had actually a really good year last year for us. Will DeMassey, it's time to see him become an upperclassman and do something special for us. Rhett Rozier, he's a returner, did not see time last year based on injury. He's a two-way guy. He's actually looked good on the bump. Then there's some others like Carson Tiem, Braylon LaRue. What can Oscar Pace do for us? Rocco Cardinale, he had some highlights last year. Those are some returners on the pitching side of things that are anchoring in some experience led by Seth Morano as our new pitching coach.
Yeah, Seth, of course, a former player for you, played at a really high level, was an all-GLIAC recipient. But so pitchers returning, I'd say the biggest thing is, well, it always is for regardless of position, but health, right? Pitching, it wasn't super healthy early on in the year, so I think that's going to be a key this year is the depth doesn't mean much if you can't stay healthy. So try and keep those guys going out there as much as they can. Switching over to position players, 7 of the 9 players that started the most at their respective position are back this year. The 2 that aren't back, I'd say Noah Murciano at catcher, and then Mason McGuire, who played everywhere, right? But the other 7 positions, I think, are coming back, highlighted probably by Hitzelberger, Sanders, Hill, and then you already mentioned Hatzigiorgio. Those are the 4 big ones I can think of at the plate, but they're joined by some others. Talk about returning position players.
Yeah, we'll go break down by position. I'm looking in the outfield right now. You mentioned Caleb Sanders, very competitive, maybe pound for pound one of the most competitive players on our team. Drew Hill, time for him to be an upperclassman. He's seen some time as a freshman and sophomore. I'd like to see him take that next step moving forward for us. Gabe Zeldes is a guy who's seen some time in his experience with Wayne State University on our baseball team. National SAC rep now. He's doing a lot of great things off the field. He's putting in work on the field, so we'll see where that develops. Drew Dawson is showing a lot of hunger, left-hand hitter in the outfield. He's seen a little bit of time for us in his past and some potential there. So that's kind of some of the outfielders of the returners. Looking at the infield, we haven't mentioned his name, but Ty Garza. He's looked good at the shortstop spot, middle infield scenario. He can play multiple infield positions. He looked really well in the fall defensively. Got to continue to produce offensively. Brady Lakita, maybe a go-to leader, someone that brings a lot of intangibles. Can also play multiple positions on the infield. Has some versatility offensively and on the base paths. Stephen Whitted, didn't see much time last year, but someone that has the ability to run very effectively, has athleticism, can play around the infield and in the outfield. So he'll have some utility depth for us. You mentioned Hatson Giorgio, co-captain. He's seen a lot of time over his career for us. Very successful student athlete. Looking for him to capitalize some things for his Wayne State career this season. Zach Warner, also someone that's on the infield and can have some utility depth, outfield, and maybe an emergency catch. Some go-to bats over at first base. Brennan Hitzelberger and Owen Tuccinardi. Both of them have had some key at-bats in their time for us at Wayne State. Both have played extensively defensively. Hitzelberger can also move around the field a little bit. Very good at first base, but he can play in the outfield as well. Saw some emergency time as a pitcher this last season. I don't know if we'll see that this year moving forward, but someone that can add depth and leadership and experience in collaboration with the rest of the returning position players.
Coach, before we talk about newcomers, Gabe Nazelia, captain, co-captain. He's a grad student, his 5th year with the program. And then Tony Hatza-Giorgio, his 4th year with the program. He's a senior. He's played 148 games. So 2 seniors, grad student and senior, that have been with the program a long time now. What is the captain process like? Is that exclusively players vote on that? They pick that? Do coaches have a say in that? How does that work for your program?
Great question. So over 90 years of Wayne State University baseball, it's probably been a fluid development. In the last 20 years or so, Wayne State is in the United States of America, so we have a little bit of a democratic scenario here where players vote. And so we'll help as coaches and support staff to build that leadership, but I think it's very valuable when the team speaks. And so the team votes on the captains, and that's the process that's developed. So Gabe Nazelli and Hatza-Giorgio, they both have highlighted to their peers, and the peers spoke through their votes to nominate them as co-captains.
Good teams are coach-led, great teams are player-led. I think that's something you and your staff have tried to stress since you've been here. But back to the roster, new faces. I count 14 of them, 8 freshmen, and 6 have come in via the portal. Just talk about what's coming in. We don't really know until we start playing games, right? About the new guys. What can you tell us about that class and maybe what you were looking for?
Sure. So as you mentioned, there's a little bit of differences with how the student athletes that are new that have gotten to Wayne State University, some that are straight out of high school, some that are junior college transfers or portal. And we'll start with the pitching staff to add balance and depth to our returners. We've seen some highlights out of a few of them so far through the fall and winter. Saputo's a back-end reliever that's out of Macomb Community College who had a lot of success last year. He did, and the team did at Macomb Community College. He's someone we might look to come out of the bullpen this year based on his experience and his competitiveness and his abilities. Will Lowry, he's someone that he's a junior college product out of Kalamazoo Valley. He's someone that has shown some real promise on the pitching mound for us. Probably some versatility to start and maybe add other areas if we need him, but he's done well. Landon Ide is a freshman out of Florida. Landon Ide, he's done well on the mound. He also is a two-way player. He can swing the bat and play a little defense as well. Matt Marino's a new guy. O'Keefe is a new guy. 2 freshmen that are coming to us that are going to continue to add depth and leadership in the freshman class. There are 2 left-handed pitchers that have shown well. That's Joel Mader and Bryce Simpson. They've shown some promise from the left side on the mound, and they'll probably help contribute in some ways. They develop their role with this pitching staff. That's the pitching staff moving forward. New guys and the returning, or new guys in terms of position players. Probably the biggest position is at the catching scenario, and so we do have a return in Logan Van Sicklen, based on last year's detail with injuries. It just wasn't on the pitching mound. We were hit on the position side as well. He was one of them. And so he had to go through some broken bones and a shoulder surgery. And so there is a unlikely scenario he will see us this year. But he's going to add depth in terms of leadership and help develop our catchers. But we do have some good ones. Braden Crow's a freshman out of Heartland High School, won a state title last year at Heartland High School in Michigan for Wayne State Hall of Famer Brad Gunther, who's the manager there. And he'll compete for us behind the plate. Bryce Neitzel is a junior college transfer as well that will add some competitive depth and see time. Cooper Clark is also a talented freshman for us that is a very competitive Ontario student athlete. So those guys, along with some others that can add some depth, are behind the plate. Around the other sides of the infield and outfield, I mentioned Landon Ide. He's a two-way player. He'll see some time on the pitching mound, also maybe a little bit at first base and swing it. Nick Sandia, he's a talented infielder who has some power at the plate, has some ability defensively with his arm and his athleticism. He can go around different spots on the infield. Alfredo Velasquez, he's a transfer from the University of Michigan and through the transfer portal. He'll probably see some time as a lefty-lefty in the outfield as well. So that's kind of pound for pound some of the newcomers. There's another one, Carter Klein. He's an infielder that will help add depth in the infield circuit.
Coach, we switch over to the schedule. As we record on February 4th, the season is 9 days away. You're at your max right now of 50, but that includes 26 out-of-conference games. Tiffin, Lewis, Findlay, the Rust Mat down in Florida, Ohio Dominican for the home opener, home and home with Hillsdale, and then you finish the regular season at Rollins down in Florida, and then 24 GLIAC games. Grand Valley, Saginaw, Purdue Northwest will come here, and we will go to Parkside, Davenport, and Roosevelt. So 50 games, and then the GLIAC tournament, we'll lump that into this question. That's going to be in Utica. First time since 2022 it won't be in Lansing. But just talk about your schedule, maybe kind of how that came together, and the GLIAC tournament, something different for you guys.
Sure. As has most of the country, just not the North, has been dealing with a tough January and February. So hopefully, as we progress into college baseball, all of us will get through it as best as we can, and the spring is upon us. But with that being said, we do open up with Tiffin, who's been a formidable in-region opponent with us for a long time. Great proximity. Those schools are relatively close. We're going to play in Florence, Kentucky. That'll be a good in-region matchup to start the season here soon. And then we'll also compete with Lewis the week after that down in Tennessee. Lewis has done very well in the GLVC across recent years. Always a good opponent. We look forward to competing against them. Findlay, again, another team that's close proximity for us. We'll match up with them in southern Ohio before we head south to Florida. And so, again, another in-region opponent. So it's, as the NCAA is going to evolve in terms of how the postseason shapes up, at least this year, it's always very credible to get in-region opponents. So that's something that we forecasted as we went through this process of scheduling, at least for our first 3 weekends. We'll head down south to Florida. Our first trip of Florida, we'll go down to the Rust Mat. We've been doing that multiple times. It's in Central Florida. We'll play always good competition down there. We'll try to play every day as we go down during that spring break time frame. We'll play some formidable opponents in Minnesota Mankato. They always do very well every year, annually. Great team, great coach team, good talent. It'll be a good opposition for us. And California PA is down there as well, another opposition. Some of the Minnesota schools will play down there. So it's always great to go down to Florida and see how we match up on a day-to-day schedule. We'll open up at home against Ohio Dominican. And that'll be in the middle of our spring break still. That'll be a good opportunity around the St. Patrick's Day timeframe in March. Hope to open up back at Harwell, another in-region opponent. And then we'll get after right away starting in the GLIAC. We're starting out at Parkside in Kenosha, Wisconsin. We'll go through the GLIAC schedule. GLIAC schedule is always very competitive, week to week, series to series. Not just in baseball, at every sport. Obviously, it's one of the top conferences in the country, and so we look forward to that schedule. We'll also play some non-conference in Hillsdale on some midweeks, in-region games as well, home and away. And then, as you mentioned, we'll play in Rollins at Rollins College in Florida to finish the regular season. That's due to the bye weekend. There was a bye in the GLIAC, and that is the Wayne State bye weekend. So, and it's also Rollins' bye weekend in their conference. So it'll give us a championship experience to go on the road. We'll fly down there. We'll play 4 games against a very good opponent. They're always up there in terms of national rankings and recognition, and so that'll be good for us going into our postseason play, which you mentioned will be in Utica at the UWM Field, home to the Independent League here in Southeast Michigan, and it's a good stadium, a good a good location for us to compete and start the postseason process.
Yeah, you mentioned Rollins series. Last year, you went down there, played Florida Southern, both out of the Sunshine State Conference, which you could argue is the best conference, maybe deepest. Tampa, of course, is always good, but there's several other programs. So some good out of conference, out of region, yes, but great competition nonetheless. Coach, that's all I have for you. Good luck this season. I'm sure we'll hear from you again, but thanks for the time, and go Warriors.
Okay, thank you.